Hello everyone, I'm Jonathan Little for PokerNews.com, and today we're going to be going through a hand where I have to figure out if I want to call a pretty big all-in in a relatively marginal spot. So, let's take a look. Under the gun makes it 9,000 chips out of his 100 big blind stack. He's very deep stacked. And I'm under the gun +1 with pocket tens. And right off the bat, I don't do much 3-betting in this situation at all. I am calling almost every time. And the reason is because if your opponent is competent from early position, their initial raising range should be very strong, especially if stacks are deep and there are random shallow stacks at the table who could shove all in. This is just a spot where under the gun can't get out of line. So if under the gun can't get out of line, it means he must have something reasonable. Now, how does tens fare against something reasonable? It's okay, but don't forget, we have to worry about everyone else at the table who could easily wake up with a strong hand. So, for the most part, I don't 3-bet under-the-gun raisers all that often. And that's just fine, because you have to realize the under-the-gun player is taking their hand against everyone else at the table. And someone's going to wake up with something sometimes. So, I call. Now it pulls around to the hijack, who was a 40-year-old guy, seemed reasonable, and he rips it all in for 28 big blinds. It's a pretty big shove. Folds back around, under the gun folds, and now it is on me. This is a situation where some players just always call because they're like, oh, pocket tens are great, I call. And some players always fold because they think pocket tens are always flipping, so I fold. But both sets of logic are not ideal. You want to be thinking, what is my opponent's range and how does my hand fare against it? So in this scenario, we have to put in 100,000 chips to win a pot of 240,000 or so, right? So we're going to need to be good, whatever it is, 45-ish% of the time. Here, I'll get out the calculator and show you how to figure this out. What you do is you take your bet, which is 100, and divide it by the total pot of 240, and you need to be good 42% of the time. So actually, not all that often, 42% of the time. And what you want to do is you want to ask, what is my opponent's range? Now, if the opponent's range is exactly aces, kings, queens, jacks, and ace-king, tens is going to be in relatively marginal shape. Let me pull up a program called Equilab. It's completely free. It will teach you how equities line up, right? So let's take a look. Let's give us pocket tens. Let's give our opponent aces, kings, queens, jacks, and ace-king. Click apply, click evaluate, and you see we only have 33% equity or 34% equity against that very strong range. So if the opponent's range is tight, only the best hands, we have a very easy fold. Okay, good. What if the opponent's range is a little bit looser? What if it contains tens, maybe even nines, and ace-jack suited? Oops, did I click apply? Forgot to click apply. Make sure you always click apply. And you see now we're up at 45% equity. Remember, we only need to be good here 42% of the time or so, right? So if the opponent's range looks like this, we have a close call. Now, you always want to have a little bit of an overlay in scenarios like this because you are risking a decent amount of chips. We are on day 2 of the tournament, kind of near the bubble. So the opponent should be kind of snug. But as you can see, this range is about where it starts to become roughly break-even. So if this is roughly a range that if our opponent is shoving, we have a break-even call or barely profitable call. What happens if they are getting really aggressive? What if they are shoving, I don't know, stuff like this, which some people will do. By the way, some people don't shove aces and kings. They re-raise them small or flat call them, so keep that in mind. Against this range, you see we have 57% equity, so we're just absolutely crushing our opponent. So if our opponent's a little bit out of line, shoving a little bit too wide. You know, some people may not shove the suited connected hands, but some people shove stuff like this. They may shove small pairs. You see, we're actually in just fantastic shape, right? So this is a situation where unless the opponent is incredibly, incredibly tight, we're in great shape. So don't be afraid to call. What if we had ace, queen offsuit instead? Let's take a look. You see ace, queen offsuit, not nearly as good of a hand, right? What about ace, king offsuit? You want to spend a decent amount of time studying these spots because it is very, very important to realize which hands you should be calling with and which hands you should be folding with in these scenarios. You're going to find hands like ace-queen are actually pretty marginal, whereas hands like 10s, jacks, ace-king are great. So when you do find yourself with something like 10s or better at ace-king in the spot, you just have to call it off pretty much every time, because either it's a small losing play or, way more likely, either a small winning play or a significantly winning play. So I do make the call. We're against the ace-8 offsuit. Wow. Notice that wasn't even in my loose range, nowhere near. Let's just make this what I think someone's range looks like if they are jamming ace-8 offsuit. It's going to look something like this. If this is the opponent's range and I have 10s, you see now we're way up here at 61% equity. Folding would be an atrocious mistake. And you may say, but if you lose this pot, you lose a lot of chips. Even if this was for all of my chips nearing the bubble against someone who I thought had ace-8 offsuit in their range, I am happily calling it off. I am thrilled to call it off in this spot because we have such a big equity advantage that you cannot turn this down. If you say, no, I don't want these profitable spots over and over again in tournaments, you will find that your chips slowly decrease. And that is not how you win. You win by having your chips increase. So I get the idea that survival is important in tournaments, but at the same time, you do need to accumulate chips. And unless you are like right on the stone bubble, you should probably be calling it off in this spot pretty much every time. So we get it in against ace-8 and we win. That's always nice. I think the opponent's shove, by the way, is quite bad here. Especially, again, if we're nearing the bubble, this guy can just hang out and collect his free min cash. Something that a lot of people get in their minds in re-entry tournaments is they think, oh, I'm in 3 times, so now I have to take, whatever, say 50th place to be even. But look, being even for a tournament is irrelevant. It's an asinine thought process because being even doesn't matter. Who said that you need to be even on the day or even on the tournament or even on the trip or even on the year? None of that matters. You just want to make the play that yields the most profit. And right now, nearing the bubble with 28 big blinds, the hijack's main priority should be collecting that 1.5 buy-in min cash, even if it would be down for the trip. Assuming you're playing to make money, well, you have to play to make money and get irrational thought processes such as being even out of your mind because they just don't matter. In the long run, if you make profitable decisions, you will profit. And if you make unprofitable decisions, like jamming it all in with the ace-8 offsuit, well, you will not profit, and all of your money will go to people who are not afraid to call it off with 10s, like me. So that's going to be it for today. I'm glad we collected that all in, and we will continue moving forward. We have a few more hands before I meet my untimely demise in 35th place in this tournament that I will be sharing with you over the next week or two. I want to thank you for being here. Thanks to Poker News for having me make these videos. If you enjoy it, let the people at Poker News know. Good luck in your games. Have fun, and I'll talk to you next time.